Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching or listening to this, and welcome to Link Up Leaders, your direct link to leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. My name is Lisa Kinski. I'm your producer and co-host, and joined as always by Francois Jeffrey. Francois, how are you doing, dear?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. After many connection issues, we finally have you. You're not frozen.
At one point, it was StreamYard. I swear it wasn't Wi-Fi, but then it switched back to being a Wi-Fi issue. So now I have another backdrop, which is perfectly fine. It's all white.
All white, all good.
Yeah, could be worse. How are you?
I'm good. I have to argue that it's a StreamYard problem because me and our guest have been fine this whole time. But, you know, that's just... I will say, though...
We all have our problems, okay?
when you got frozen, you were at least frozen doing a thumbs up and smiling, saying, like, I'm good now, and then you were stuck.
Well, hopefully I didn't cause too much panic because I'm super excited for this.
No panic at all.
If anyone hears any beeping, it's because the warehouse is right next to me and the forklifts are probably driving by. So disregard, please. And I apologize.
Oh, the joys of live streaming. Something that our guest is not unfamiliar with. He too runs a podcast. He's going live 5 times a week right now. I told him, man, I don't know how you do that. It's so much work. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
But today we are speaking with the co-founder and managing director of Exit Your Way, a business that helps business owners create valuable companies that they can sell or succeed whenever they are ready. And I have a question from him about that title. But everybody, please welcome to the stage, Damon Pistulka. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. And you already have fans in the comments. Michelle Gunn saying Damon Pistulka is an excellent guest. Michelle, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle.
So Damon, let's jump straight into it. First, we want to get into your background and everything, but I have a question about that quick little about of Exit Your Way. What do you mean by sell or succeed whenever they're ready?
Well, most people, you get into business, right? You get into business for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you're kind of forced into it. Sometimes you fall into it. Sometimes you're intentionally going into business. But the vast majority of the times people go into business because they want 2 things. They want more freedom, more money, and follow their passion, right? Or so 3 actually. But what they oftentimes, and the vast majority, they never go, okay, what am I going to do when I'm done? Because we're all going to be done. Yeah, I'm a little closer than you guys, but this is something that we really need to think about early, because the fact of the matter is that most businesses are not sold at the end. They simply have to be shut down because nobody will take them and buy them and move them on. Whether it's selling to someone else or having your children run it or some family member or something like that, the vast majority of them aren't. And they aren't because of the way the people build the businesses over time. And these are, I'm not talking just like the bakery down the corner. I'm talking about the $20 million plumbing company and manufacturing companies. And we see, you know, if you're in the industrial business or e-commerce or any of these, you see these things just happen where there's no one there that takes that business on or wants that business. And so what we do is we help the owners understand, hey, this is great for you today, but as you're building the business, let's build a business that your next owner is going to be really happy to have and carry on that legacy, whether it's your children or someone else. And they're going to be able to pay you money for it because your business is making enough money.
Oh, definitely. That's awesome.
So that's what we do. And because it's only about, like I said, it's only like 20 to 25% of businesses actually sell. And then only, I think it's like 20 some percent or 16% actually go from the first generation to the second generation. So there's a big problem here, and most people don't know about it because it's not talked about.
And are you finding those figures to be true of e-com and brick and mortar businesses? Or are you speaking more so to like the traditional, like you said, a plumbing company? Or
this is overall. Okay. And the e-commerce is different too, because they are easier oftentimes to transfer than a regular business, especially on the smaller end of them. As they get bigger, we run right into the same problems that we do on the other businesses, but it is a little bit better.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. I was actually just reading a book. It's a fairly short book if anyone wants to read it. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it, Rocket Fuel by Gino
Yep.
Wickman.
Yep.
Great EOS tool.
Read
Talks
it.
a lot about management. Yeah, amazing book. And they talk in that about how sometimes the visionary might not be able to pass that. There we go.
I love it.
The first one.
Traction. That's another amazing book. I think also by Gino Wickman.
It is. It is. In fact,
I read
it
that
is.
a few years back.
Yeah.
And they talk about specifically how visionaries sometimes they just can't pass that along
Yeah.
because it's just that hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we step in. I mean, we traditionally, my role in investment-owned businesses in the past has been as an integrator, understanding the traction EOS terms. And really what we help is be that integrator in a business, or show them what an integrator is and help the right people in their business be the integrator to get the systems in place so that the business is easy to understand from people on the outside. It's easier for that owner to run. Mm-hmm. And also, as you understand from traction, you put those kind of things in place, you can scale your business a lot easier as well. Those kind of things help today. They help you grow your business and run a lot better business today. And then when they're ready, it makes it so much easier. So if I'm trying to sell a business that is going to be going to an investment buyer, it has to be set up a certain way. I mean, in e-commerce, we have to understand who our persona is and speak to them, right? Well, with your business, when we're thinking about the business exit, we have to have our business has to speak to our persona, and our persona is the next owner of that business, whoever that's going to be.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to think of it. And so let's dive into your background a little more, because you seem to have a real grasp of, like running the e-com businesses and speaking to your, consumers and your buyers. Have you sold e-com yourself? Were you an Amazon seller?
Yeah, I've done a bit of sales on Amazon. I've not me listing items directly kind of thing, but let's see. I've for the last 5 or so years been involved as either fractionally or advisory, selling probably $15-20 million at least on Amazon every year, different kinds of products. But that's just one of the channels. I mean, you can talk about Wayfair and Home Depot and Walmart, and any of the big ones, eBay. Even in some of the bizarre, and I don't say bizarre, but it's, the ones that you really don't even hear about, like a Price Falls, or when Sears was still going, Sears had an e-commerce channel, JCPenney, Bed Bath and Beyond. A lot of these people don't understand that you can, as an online e-commerce seller, you can sell products on all these large brick and mortar chains through their online portals. And
wait, you can sell on Bed Bath and Beyond?
Yeah.
New information to me.
That is a process, though, right?
Oh yeah. This is not like you're not going to wake up one day with a product and get on there. I mean, it's work. It's work to get your product on, just like it is to get on Home Depot or something like that. It's work, but once you get your products on there, I mean, you got good products on Home Depot, you can pop a few $1 million through it in the first year. It's a good place. It's just like any reason you want to get on a platform. You get on where the traffic is, and if you sell the right product, that's a home-based product. Just think how good you would have done in the last year and a half on Home Depot. I mean, they can't keep anything in stock. Oh, yeah. So if I was selling something, say backyard, outdoor, some furniture or something, something relating to that around the home, you would have killed it on there. If you had 5-6 SKUs on there that were something that was a $100 to $500 item, it would have been a great place to be. And then, there's even like in the Midwest, Menards, you can get on theirs. There's so many different places that you can get with your products if you really dig into those different kinds of channels. But it is, as Francois says, it is like getting in their store almost. But to them, there's less risk. To you, there's less risk. And, because, and places like Home Depot, they selfishly use it because they see if a product is moving well enough online, then they'll consider moving it into a test bunch of stores, and then they'll move it into their across the United States, or if they want to.
Well, a big part of that is integrations, right? Integrations with technologies,
Yeah.
integrations with systems, and that's where I think as a lot of e-commerce businesses scale up, they may struggle because
Oh,
they see it as particularly native Amazon brands. As they try to get off, they understand Shopify. Shopify is its own beast. But then
yeah.
when you start to talk about other marketplaces, like, for example, Home Depot, they use a completely different
Yep.
ERP
Yep.
that you have to be able to integrate with. You have to have your is it GS1 completely integrated with it too, and
Mm-hmm.
letting them know all the different locations where the inventory is. So, I mean, there's just so many processes. And I would actually love to keep diving a little bit deeper into your background to see how you found out about all these different areas. When I looked into it, it was very impressive. It was like a never ending resume, essentially. On your LinkedIn and everything else that I found about you online. But can we dive into your background a little bit more?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to know sort of where you started when it comes to, I think, the retail space, or would you call it more so the management space?
Management. Yeah.
Management than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
When did you sort of figure out that you wanted to be in this realm?
When I realized that, I didn't want to be an engineer. I mean, I love
Because you're a
engineering.
mechanical engineer,
I went to
right?
school for mechanical engineering,
Yeah.
and then I did a bunch of graduate work in industrial management. And I soon realized that, well, I was a decent engineer. I really like managing and leading people because that's more fun. And what I did slowly but surely is I started to really understand management of people, first of all, and then managing businesses after that. And I've been very fortunate to work with some of the really smart financial people. So, I didn't grow up knowing how to do business deals or how you're going to sit down with a Walmart and figure out how to sell to their entire chain. But I've been in those kind of meetings now and been able to do that and sell into and to understand that and see how those kind of things happen from really smart people. Or even in the manufacturing realm, I've been so fortunate to work with some of the smartest people I believe around, and watch how they grow and grow businesses and what they do in the manufacturing realm. And then in e-commerce, in the last few years, I've been able to help e-commerce businesses adopt a lot of the things that we learned in manufacturing, as far as lean business and operationally, to be able to go, okay, because in e-commerce, the one thing that you have the opportunity to do is to scale. And scaling always causes problems. Scale quickly, and that always causes problems if you're not really rethinking your business. And that's what really drew me. My leadership and management background. I'd run businesses since the late '90s for investment owners, so they run businesses differently than you or I that would in our own business. And we're in it for, as we said, we're on it for freedom and money and more money and those kind of things, and to follow our passion. Well, they're in it to make to make a profit, right? And not only today, but to grow the value of the business. And they manage much differently. And it's not a bad thing, because if we did that in our own personal businesses, I believe, we would build value more consistently and go to higher values for ourselves, making more money today. And then if we wanted to do something with the business later, you can sell it for more down the road. Those are the things that I've been able to take from manufacturing and apply in the manufacturing space, and then apply into the e-commerce space, both a little bit on the operational side, but more just the overall strategy of being able to grow and build value.
So would you say, I mean, it's applicable across most industries, where if you have been in leadership and management, it's more so just learning a bit more about who to lead and who to manage than it is the ins and outs of like how to advertise, how to run PPC, all that good stuff?
It is. It really is. It's more, and that's where people run into problems, I think, is that, well, I know. You can build a business being a good technical person to a certain point, but at a certain point, you have to, and this is whenever you see businesses, I don't care if it's an e-commerce business or whatever, it will plateau at a certain point, because if I'm say I'm great at PPC and I start my e-commerce business and I'm running it and I know how to do that. Well, all the other stuff behind you is going to catch up with you. You're not going to have good customer service. You're not going to have a good supply chain. You're not going to have all the things, your financial, you're not going to have all that together. Well, you're never going to be good in all those areas. And really a leader should only think that if I can be smart enough to be dangerous in an area, that's all you have to be. And then find the right people. Well, now I just introduced that next variable is I have to hire people that are smarter than me in different areas. And then I have to lead and inspire and motivate them. Mm-hmm. And really, I think motivation it comes naturally if you're doing it right, but I have to lead and inspire them. So as a business owner, think of that mentally, the shift that I have to make. I'm great at PPC, but now I have 5 other people or 4 other people that I have to lead, inspire, and motivate every day and help them to be better. And, oh, by the way, I should probably have a way of understanding how my business is running because it's bigger than I can manage it out of a checkbook anymore. So, we start to put all these factors together and you can see why businesses get to a certain point and then they stop. Mm-hmm. And what I really help people do is to break through that, because I've been in businesses like that. I've studied how to go through it, and I've applied how to break through those levels, and I've done it multiple times. And when you see it, you kind of be able to help them with an outside perspective to go, okay, here are the next steps we're going to take, because they're sitting there working their butts off, right? And that's not going to, no matter how hard they can go, they're going to put themselves in the hospital working hard, and they're never going to get bigger than they are today because we're maxed out. It takes a rethinking. It's like, as you said, it used to be that in an e-commerce business for a while, you can manually enter orders, right? You can manually enter orders. Well, then you need to figure out how to download and upload or something like that. And then you go, okay, well, I'm spending 8 hours a day downloading CSVs and uploading CSVs. Mm-hmm. And then you go, well, now we have to get the APIs working and having the data automatically transmitting and looking at a system so I can make sure that, I'm reviewing real-time profitability of every order that's being transmitted between platforms to us to make sure that we're making the money we want. All these kind of things that you have to change. Those step-like improvements that you have to make are the same in managing a business. In the overall, the structure of the business, the leadership of that business, and everything, the leadership have to keep stepping that up one level.
So what should they be focusing on? What should, let's say, an Amazon seller that built a great $10 million business in top line, and they're looking to scale up, and they're just stuck. 10 million a year, great. They're making amazing money, I'm sure. But it's one of those things also where you run into 2020 and you're like, well, shit, I didn't set up a proper supply chain. Yeah. And I didn't think about logistics being, 600 times or 600% more than it was last year. I didn't account for all this. I just accounted for my PPC was running smoothly, and I was really good at that. Or I optimized my listing, or I had a good IP protection on my product that was super unique. What do you say to those Amazon sellers?
Well, there's really nothing you can do for demand. What I say to them is you have to understand how your business is doing almost on a daily basis. And when I say how your business is doing, I mean, you have to understand the gross margin of your business on a daily basis. Weekly is what we usually do with clients, because as you get bigger, it's really hard to do it on a daily basis. But if you got people that are monitoring your orders and doing those kind of things, and you're looking at this on a weekly basis, that's how you begin to spot the problems where you can really fix them. Because usually if you look at the business, it's either my supply chain is letting me down, I need to focus on that. My customer service or my performance is hitting me and I've got to do something there. Or my financials are hitting me and I've got to manage my cash better because I don't have enough money to buy the supplies that I need to keep them in stock for the customers and order them. So it's when you hit those plateaus, it's probably the time, as you know from reading Traction and Rocket Fuel, it's time for you to understand where I have to delegate and elevate. And that can be across the organization to get the specialized help we need in those areas to keep them moving forward. It's an interesting problem, and it's quite different in the businesses because, like I said, it can hit any of those parts, and it really needs to be addressed on a case by case basis. But it isn't one of those things. Either you don't have the right systems, you don't have the right people, or you're not going in the right direction.
And with enough people, with enough money, do you think you could have the right people? And they could build the right systems?
Yeah. Well, and now you got to remember too, overall, there are two kinds of people that you will find in the world in business. You're going to find, and this has been the same for a gazillion years, right? They're going to have system builders and you're going to have system followers. Now, system followers are good managers. They're the kind of people that I've got something in place. They work at a place like I'm familiar with here, Boeing, right? Boeing's got systems. You're not going to go in there and shake up the supply chain the way they do it because it's been done. This is how we do it. And I hate those words. But in some companies, you need that, right? So you have to understand where you're at in the business, because the kind of people that you need is your mix of people that have to be willing to build new systems and do the new things. You may not have that. And that's where I think that a lot of business owners don't realize that outside resources could be the best value add at that point, rather than just hiring more people. Maybe you need to redesign a system. You need to really have somebody that's been on that path, has been through that same path and helped people through it, because the outside perspective, and being that if they're a system builder, they can come in and help you figure out what things need to be fixed and then put the right things into play. And I think that's what happens more. But yes, you can. And it usually is a combination of putting the right systems in place, and it's either internal people or external people to get that done, and then making sure the staffing is there to support it. You can, as long as the demand is there, you can keep growing stuff.
I think that's terrifying, though, for a lot of sellers, right? Or brand owners, whatever we want to call them.
Yeah.
Someone that's built a successful business. And I mean, again, this is almost like we're just talking about rocket fuel or traction even. But I think it is terrifying to them as visionaries to let go.
Yeah, it is. They have to let go of the vine, as it says, and you have to understand. But what we do that makes it really easy, and this is what the investment business owners do. If you really understand KPIs and you have a solid dashboard system that tells you what your gross margin is every week, and you've got an annual budget that you set out, like we're going from 10 to $15 million or $20 million this year, we're going to double our business. Listen, it's not that hard to put together that budget and what I need to do this week. And I know my weekly, how my sales going a week. Am I hitting what I need to for that person that is driving the sales? How much revenue do I need to generate today? And if we do that, and we talk about that at least on a weekly basis, and we know that we're hitting those numbers, this becomes much easier for that visionary, because they begin to understand that, listen, we did all right this week. We've gone through our numbers. Our customer satisfaction is good. Our gross margin is good. And if we just know that our money we made on the gross margin is good every week, then they'll get to the end of the month, the financials will come out, and they'll go, oh, voila, we were pretty close to where we thought we were. But think about this in most sellers, right? They're running the business every day. They're just like, man, we got orders, we got product, we got all this stuff. They don't take that time to sit down and go, how did we do? And if everybody did great, okay, that's wonderful. How are we going to do better? Because next week we have to do more, and talk about those things, or talk about problems, and really work on solving problems with forward-looking things to be able to go, okay, that was last week. What are we doing now? And that is really, and it's block and tackle stuff, right? It's not, but a visionary, to go from what a visionary does into this, it's just like the beat of the drum. It has to be like the beat of the drum every week, every day, in certain, depending upon where you're at in the organization. You want to know how you're doing. And it gives people that are working too. It's like, if I'm if I'm the marketing manager and I need to know that I've got campaigns going and I want to know what my return on those campaigns are. I want to know at the end of a week, did I do well or not? Mm-hmm. And if I'm doing well, great. We need to work on how can I make them better? What other campaigns do we need to do? What do we do like that? It just changes the way an organization goes. And visionaries are really often afraid of accountability because they think that, oh, people will be upset. But most people want to know how they're doing. And that's the thing. The visionaries they're notoriously horrible about telling people or giving them the reinforcement and understanding of how are you doing one way or the other. And if we set up the dashboards and KPIs right for a department and that manager of that department or the owner themselves, they know how they're doing. They know how they're doing. We're either doing it or not. But it is scary for them to do it. And in letting go of the vine, though, not just going, okay, I'm letting go. And this is what most visionaries do. They said, okay, I'm hiring Damon today and he knows what he's doing, so I'm going to let him go do what they do. Well, that can go a long time. That can go 90 days, 120 days. And you go, and then you realize it's not working. Well, if we do these same kind of things with the fundamentals in behind it, and we're already measuring the performance and we add something to it, we can see really quickly, did the performance increase, stay the same, decrease? What happened? We don't know what happened. And that's really just like the technical people understand. I made a change to my pay-per-click. Did we get better return, lower return? They're watching that, right? You have to do that. Let's do that with the whole business and the important parts of the business, so that as we add and tweak things, we know how it's affecting the overall. Simple things. You can look at an e-commerce business, and if you've got your own products in your own warehouses, you go, okay, what's my average order fulfillment time? Mm-hmm. How many people I got working in the warehouse every week? How many hours they put in? How many orders did I ship? That's simple.
But basic bookkeeping, I think there, and timekeeping. Timekeeping is definitely important no matter what, and seeing your direct and indirect labor costs and
yeah, because we've gone into places before and had they never measured that just the average order fulfillment time. And you look at it and you go, okay, it's 15 minutes, and you go, okay, the size of the order. Is that really relevant and really the right or as optimized as it can be? And you go, oh, you go out and look and you go, this is the old operational stuff that I used to do. You go out and look and you can just see, are we really, is it efficient? No, it's not. So let's work with the warehouse people to talk to them about what can we do to make that more efficient. Okay, well, if I can drop that to 15 minutes now, if I can drop it to 10, I just increased my capacity by 50%. Well, that helps me to scale. And that's what's going to happen as you scale, right? You're going to get to a certain point and you're going to go, well, we just keep adding warehouse people, but it just seems like it's not getting us any more. We really can't get it out the door. Well, you have to go back and reinvent what you're doing. It might be, have you seen in some of these good places, it's the automated packaging and some of the other things you have to do to really move stuff. And those are the kind of things that, as you get to that point and you're stuck, the measures of your KPIs and dashboards help you to go, okay, this is what's holding us back. Now we need to go focus on that area.
And having those KPIs established and all of those really solid processes are definitely things that would make a business attractive to a potential buyer, right?
Yeah, it's because along with that, I mean, visionaries, business owners in general, don't get up thinking about what's my annual plan for next year and then building it out, right? Because that's a pain in the butt. Building it out, if you've never done it before, is a pain in the butt. But if you've done it a bunch and you lay out a 3-year plan for your business, this year is really solid. We know what we're going to do. We know what we want to do down to the week or the day if we can. Second year is a little fuzzier, but I know where I'm going to go. I've got these other markets I'm going to. I've got new products I'm going to launch. I want to get to that level, right? I want to know these are some things that we think that's farther out. And the third year, we're just guessing that here's some things that we think right now we're going to be able to do to get to the next level. That is the key to your future. Because if you do that right and you go, okay, we know what we're doing here. In the second year, I can see where I need to hire my next channel person, or I need to hire my next, I need to put another warehouse on, or I need to do, it's time for us to go put 4 warehouses in the United States. So now we can cover the United States better, or whatever it is. Those things, those show up when you're looking at that longer term plan. And that's really what the owners should be, and the top level executives should be spending a part of their time on, is how am I ensuring our success tomorrow? Because we all get caught up in today. That's where we get caught up in today. And that's why businesses stop growing, is because today consumes everything. And once today consumes everything, I can't focus on how am I going to get to where I need to go tomorrow. And that is in the executive suite. That's what you got to spend a fair amount of your time on, is how am I paving that path, and how am I leading people to that path? Because you have to be there and lead your people to that place.
Very well
So
said.
who were some of those important executive hires as you scale up that these visionaries should be thinking about?
Yeah, they need to have a general manager, or somebody that can make sure the trains are running on time. That is like if you don't have that, and now that general manager is probably going to be understand the business pretty well, and they just need to make sure that they are able to lead those people and make sure the trains run on time, and bring problems to the owner. That's the first person that you really need to, and that's the integrator in Traction, or that you need to have that integrator, and you need to understand the roles between the two. And because that's the other thing, they never think about, never, very seldom think about defining the roles. Okay, Damon, you're the GM now. This is what I want you to do. This is where you've got freedom to do what you think is right. And this is where I'm going to be, and making that separation and letting go of the vine. So they go, okay, because as we know, that the general manager is going to be there, and they're going to be doing their thing. The employees are still going to come to the owner and ask them questions like they did for the last 5 years. That owner needs to understand how to respond to that, and how to make sure that the general manager is the person that's going to actually provide the information and the guidance to do what they need to do. So this coaching process through this is really important to understand that transition. But that general manager is a second person. Then I think the third, your finance, honestly, in e-commerce, the finance is simple enough that if you're automating the transactions fairly well, and you've got a decent bookkeeper, outside CPA, you're probably okay. But then it comes into, as you know, it's somebody that understands how to sell e-commerce. That's your third hire, because you're going to run to a point to where there's too much channel management. There's too much, when you talk about paid advertising. And yes, you're going to have the technical people that, if you're big on Amazon, you have to have some people that understand how to advertise, how to write ads, all that kind of stuff on Amazon. And if you're out in with your own website, you generate significant revenue there. Of course, you have to understand the pay-per-click and all that kind of thing on your own. So, and then if you're on multiple other channels, at a certain point, there's the channel management and how that works. That is probably, if not the third, it's, depending on the business, it's the second or third that you need to do. Because if the owner's okay as the general manager, they may want to do that the e-commerce sales manager will be the person they bring in second. But those two are going to be critical, because once you get that framework in there, you've got the general manager, the person that's responsible for sales, and the owner going, you can scale them a long ways. You can go, sometimes even $50 million, if you do that. But they got to fill out below and do the kind of things. But yeah.
Do you find that there's any hesitation from business owners to kind of look for the people to fill this talent, for fear that they may end up like hiring the wrong general manager, and that person doesn't have the trains run on time, and it potentially affect their business negatively? Like, do you find that they drag their feet on looking for those people out of fear?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Every day. It's a fact. It's not a if, it's a fact. And that's why, it's that hiring process and the vetting process and the understanding that person process that you really, and I think we've improved so much over that in the last 20 years with, when you talk about the kind of things that you can do in way of personality testing, understanding your culture. You really need to understand your culture and measure it, right? Measure it with some of those people that are way smarter than me about, okay, here's how your high performers are personality wise and why they're high performers. And how does this person fit in with them that we're looking at as a candidate for our sales management position compared to that? And are those compatible? And really understand it, because in the end, technical skills, you can find them. It's about how do you get around? How do you get along with people? How do you lead people? How, in those high level positions, it's really how do you interact with people? And that's what we need to make sure is a fit with the organization. And as you move from that 10 million, this is the other thing that just kills owners. And I can understand why is the people that you start your business with are not the people that are going to be there when it's $10 million. Very few. Because what it takes when the three of us are in a room and Lisa's selling and you're making sure the money's right, Francois, and I'm outside packing boxes and putting them onto the, into the UPS, into the car that we take to UPS, literally that's how they start.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen as we grow that it's just not going to be a good fit for us anymore. Those aren't the same kind of people that are good in an organization that has to have structure and these KPIs and things like that, and a little bit of hierarchy that you need to actually run a business like that. And that scares the heck out of owners, because these are people that have, we lived it in the trenches together and did those, Friday night at 9:00 kind of thing. That really that bond people. But that is the case. And if you look at the startup people and read that much about that, they'll talk about that all the time, because it's not the people you're going to end with. You're not going to end with the people you start with.
And going back to what you said about the personality test, that was a question I had for you. Do you have a preferred test or a recommendation for people when they're looking for executive teams, either like Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs? One of them takes like 2.5 hours. I forget what it's called. I hated that thing.
I don't know. There's a few of them, and I don't recommend a specific one. There's some people that I know that do it well, and I go to them to do it, because it's not just taking the test, right? It's more about, and when you do it, it's really fun. And when you look at companies like UPS, Southwest Airlines, have you ever known, like every UPS driver is the same, right? If you ever interact with the UPS people, they all seem like they're always talkative, high energy, got their thing, they're ready to go, right?
You described most of the UPS pickup drivers.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the ones in my other offices.
Why is that? They're one of the first companies that started doing this years and years ago. Southwest Airlines. You ever been on, Southwest Airlines? People that are helping you attendant on a Southwest Airline, they're awesome. They're in it. They're having fun. We got to be in this can. Let's have a good time. They do that because they started at 20 years ago, and you use it as part of your culture. You go, okay, Damon wants to work for UPS. Is Damon going to be a fit or not? Well, let's see. Let's look first. Personality, are they a fit? Because we know they can drive. We know they can. They got enough brains. They can do that. So that you go to people that understand that, because they'll help you build the job description. Because what we often do is I interview somebody and I go, man, I like them. Well, they like them because they're like me. That position doesn't need somebody like me. And a good person helping with this that will go, okay, here's a position, and here's the kind of people that typically do well in these positions. Not you. It's you got to hire for that position. And it's just one more level of complexity that you add, is the psychology behind this and all this. And you don't need to know that. Again, it's enough to be dangerous and get the right people to help you. But I don't have a specific one. I can go back and tell you based on the people that I use, what they use. But it is when you're making those key hires, it will prevent you from making a disastrous mistake a lot of times.
And
I
we're
would
talking
agree.
about more so generalist roles here, right? Not so much the specialist, let's say
Yes.
PPC specialist or
Yes. And even though it's a different kind of test, you should do that with your specialist as well, because there's honestly there's people that are tremendously talented that can't work with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding, is Damon going to be working in a room by himself where he can be the mad scientist genius, or does Damon have to be part of a team where he's going to have to be able to communicate and work with other people, and we're all rowing the boat together to get to the same spot?
Mm-hmm.
And are there
And
any recruiters that I guess are out there specifically for e-commerce? Because everything that you're describing right now are essentially the conversations that my girlfriend has as a recruiter in the technical space for like PNC and Highmark and a lot of these larger corporations. But I haven't heard of too many for the e-commerce space.
I have not seen one specifically for e-commerce. I'm sure
Multiply
they're
Me,
there.
actually. Is
What's
it
that?
Multiply Me one with Yanni
Be.
Yanni Kosminski?
Yeah, I understood that he placed more generalist roles. He doesn't do like executive level though, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. I think
Yeah.
he does like more task-oriented generalist positions. But I could be wrong.
I completely sidetracked us. Damon, I'm sorry. When we're tying all of this back together, though, what is some of this process that you go through? And obviously, we don't have to get into the weeds of it, but like when you're starting to interact with someone that is planning an exit, or to continue succeeding, or to pass it on to the next of kin. What are some of the key things that you're looking for in that company? What are some questions that maybe they need to be more introspective about before even considering it?
What am I doing next? Because if they don't know what they're going to do next, they'll never want to get out of that company. And that's honestly why people die in their companies, because they don't think about what's next. And when people talk about, oh, I'm gonna ride off in the sunset and retire, that's BS. You got to find something you're going to do, because you are in here slamming it every day, working your butt off in that company. You got to understand how you're going to be able to devote, at least partially have that kind of stimulation in your life. And there's a lot of awesome people that I know that can then help people through that decision and help them with that. But the second thing is, how much money do I need? Because more than anything, what's going to control your life after the business? Well, that's how much money I have in my pocket to do what I want to do. So those are really the key things that I think you need to understand as you're planning an exit for your business. Is, first of all, what am I going to do with my time, and what's going to keep me actively and physically, mentally, spiritually engaged after this, so that I can be as happy as I am today, or happier, not having the business. And then second of all, just what do I need to fuel that, and how much money do I need? And, those are the two things where we really start owners out.
Solid advice, I'd say. And then I have a question, and it sounds weird, but like, bear with me. I promise it has a good story behind it. So when we talk about, looking to find, because it's not just making sure that all of your, team is a good fit for the culture of the business, but a lot of these like aggregators and acquirers that we've been talking to want to make sure that the businesses they're buying, some of the ones that go for like the larger figure businesses want to be sure that they're a good fit within, their own, within the aggregators culture and like within their own suite of businesses. So is there anything, because when I was looking at the topic for today and thinking about it, like, okay, what can you do to make your business attractive to a potential new buyer? My brain immediately went back to college when they were telling us you should do all of these extracurricular, you should do all this volunteering, you should join, a sorority or fraternity. So these like extra stars on your sheet to make you more attractive to an employer. So is there any like extracurricular that businesses should do to find a new buyer that would better align with them, if they have like ties to the community or, philanthropic efforts, like anything like that? Is that beneficial, or is that a dumb question? Or like, it
is exactly what you need to do. I mean, because people that are buying business understand the importance of that. And if you're not treating your employees right, you're probably not treating your customers right. You have to engage, inspire the people that you work with as a business owner, just like you want them to treat the people that they're going to work with, the customers and other people in the company. So community involvement is very important. Philanthropic is very important. Doing some fun activities with your team throughout the year is really important. I mean, we oftentimes our clients are doing trips with their team. They're doing fun things around the business. They might just have we got barbecue Fridays. That's what we do. It's something that simple makes a big difference. Or we're going to take a day and we're going to go out and we're going to help rebuild a little league field or something like that. Whatever you're doing to get that engagement with your employees and helping in the community really is important in those businesses. And investors understand that, because it is not only it binds that community together, because how important is building a community for your business today, because there is so much noise. There are so many reasons, so many choices people have. The more you can build a community around the people that work for you, you can help then build that community larger with your customers as well. And they investors know this better than actual owners do now.
Interesting.
And when we say investors, are we only talking aggregators? I think one of the next thoughts that sort of pop up are, I know aggregators aren't the only buyers in the space, and I think a lot of business owners, particularly native Amazon brands, need to realize that. And we've had amazing conversations with them. Don't get me wrong. We had the entire Elevate exec team on here, and they were all amazing. And I imagine they're an amazing company to also sell to. But what options are out there for any online retailer aside from some of these key aggregators?
Well, you have there's a few of these aggregators, right? They have big profile. It's an easy out, for quite honestly, for a lot of Amazon native brands, because one of the things as an outside investor buyer is they've overcome one of the biggest risks that drives most investor buyers away, and that's customer concentration. Really, because a native brand on Amazon is slave to Amazon's policies. And what happens tomorrow if Amazon changes the policy and you can't sell anymore, or changes their commission policy or something like that? So they've overcome that biggest hurdle. But there are other buyers too. If you have a multi-channel company, it's much easier to sell on the outside market. But there are aggregators I shouldn't say aggregators. There are investment buyers that are actively looking for e-commerce brands that have a multiple platform footprint, and they pay good money, and they're out there. They're doing the same thing that the Amazon native brand aggregators are, but their strategy is probably a lot more diversified in general. There's still some, the Thrashio and the Elevate, like you said, they're doing their thing, but these other investment buyers are often traditional private equity groups that were in the retail space that are now in the e-commerce space, because it's not that big a leap to get there, or they've got, customers that are mixing between the two. And they're doing it just like every day. I mean, all the way from, if I've got something that's doing $1 million in EBITDA, you got investment or search fund buyers that are looking for that kind of thing, because they've come out of that environment. You've got PE groups, if you got 5 million in EBITDA or more, that are looking to build, buy full executive management teams that can develop and execute that 5-year plan as a platform to add other ones into in the space. So you see on the outside of just Amazon alone, you see somebody going into like backyard experience. You can put together a really nice backyard experience brand, because now I've got the awnings, I've got furniture, I've got grills, I've got whatever else you want to put into that to really buy a good solid platform company, and then add on the entire experience, so they can really do that and turn it into something that's larger, that could be of interest to a bigger buyer than they are after it, because the investment buyer is going to be buying you with the intent of, in 5 to 7 years, I'm going to radically increase your value by investing more, whatever, and then I have to go someplace else with it and sell it. So there's a lot of buyers on the outside that are doing that.
Yeah, and we had Chris Schifferling on a few months back from Global Wired Advisors. He was talking a lot more about the private equity space also. That's why I wanted to pick your brain on it as well, and just make sure Chris wasn't yanking my chain.
No, they're there, and there are a lot of people that are ready to buy those businesses, and they just get a little more nervous than some of the Amazon native brand aggregators when you have too much revenue in one platform.
So would you suggest those that are considering maybe not, well, I guess everyone has different paths, but the clients that you work with, are they primarily multi-channel? And if
Yes.
so, are they having any struggles when it comes to supply chain or leadership management? I guess, where should owners focus on before even considering selling, aside from the EBITDA itself?
Yeah. Well, I think the more diverse your customer base can be, the better. So if you are all in on Amazon, your aggregators are going to be a really good place to probably start by looking for where you're going to go. If you've got a more diversified, it opens up the options for you, and I believe you'll get a little more money for it too. But focusing your time on making sure that your business is really easy to run, doesn't include you as the owner being an integral part of that every day, and make sure that you've got that growth plan laid out and you're executing on it. I mean, that's really what you want to be able to do to make it attractive to the next person.
Is that because they're essentially going to be taking that new owner role? So the less work that you're doing as an owner, the less work they theoretically should be doing.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of it, but really there's risk in that. If I'm in the business and the business is successful because of me as the owner, I'm the brains behind the pay-per-click. Oh God, this would be horrible, right? Because when I leave, the brains behind the pay-per-click just walked out the door. Or even if I tell them I'm going to stay, but they just paid Damon $10 million, how incentivized am I going to be to really drive the pay-per-click after I just had a wire in my account for that much? I'm thinking about my next trip and what's going to happen, with my new car I just got, right? Or my third home, that's the kind of stuff. So investment buyers know this. And we, with the best intentions, say, oh, I'll just keep doing it. That ain't going to work. That's why you have to be free of that business to the point that you're making strategic decisions that are really affecting the long term of the company and not the daily stuff. You just can't be involved in that. And the buyers understand that. It adds risk when you are involved in that.
And is that something where you should be writing out, let's say, that 3-year plan before you even consider selling it? Should you say, hey, I'm selling this amazing awning and I have the supplier that can also provide wicker chairs or patio furniture sets, and this is how much they might cost, and these are the channels that we can potentially expand into, these are the connections that I have? How do they set that up for the next buyer?
Well, you set it up in two ways. One is, you in the current year, you should have identified places before this and be executing on those examples right now. So, we're gonna get on to Home Depot and we're gonna start selling those products on Home Depot. And we said that last year. You can see our plans from last year where we said we're going to do it. Now we're doing it. You see us tracking to that. And now this is what we're going to do next year. And this is why we know we're going to do that next year. They need to see that, because everybody's got blue sky in their head. I could go out and sell in all these other places. That doesn't do me any good as the new buyer unless I know we can execute on it when I own the business. So that path has to be pretty clear. So your 3rd-year goals really don't matter, other than if you've got a good track history of meeting your goals and that 3rd-year goal is nice and high, you might get a little more money for it. If your 2nd-year goals are juicy and you're you're running on the right trajectory rate, you're executing on those plans that you laid out, that you'll get more of a bump into the in the price by doing that, by showing that and that's why laying these budgets out and showing that you're meeting them and showing that you're going, it's just those kind of things is where that budgeting, that KPIs and dashboards will pay off in way more money at the exit for the owner.
Damon, have you written a book?
No, but I've been asked that a few times. I kind of been thinking about it.
You certainly have the knowledge to do it, I would say.
Yeah, and I would love to. I mean, it just everything that you're saying sounds like you're writing a book, and I'm listening to like an Audible
yes.
right now.
So,
so if you do, please also read your own book too. But when it comes to that expansion, I think one topic that I've seen is out there is the fear of, let's say, going onto Home Depot and not hitting the KPIs that you might have set when you wanted to go onto Home Depot, and how that might affect the valuation. Now, is that fear warranted? Is that something that sellers should be scared of if they're not hitting that? Will it affect their exit?
Well, it can, but I'll tell you, if you're looking at your KPIs as a management team on a weekly basis, it won't go long before it gets back on track. And what it does, this process and this regimen of laying out an annual plan and then meeting or not, you might kind of do the pie in the sky the first year, but you're going to be a little more realistic in it the second year, or quickly be in adjusting where you need to be. And doing that, I don't think they should be afraid of it, because people will meet goals, right? Set reasonable goals and people will meet them. You got to rely on your team. It's not a one person thing anymore in this. You've got to put all the brain power together. And I mean, when something like in that example, we would be working with the channel managers, we would be working with the Home Depot people, we would be working with our, the advertising, whatever we needed to do that, because you'd see that problem. You mobilize your team to work on that problem, and you solve it and you move on. And that's what I think, that fear goes away, because we have way more brain power in our businesses than we realize if we harness it and use it together. Mm-hmm. That's what this whole, the dashboards, the KPIs, the performance meetings, that's what allows you to do, is really focus in on the problems and work on them, solve them, make them better, and move on to the next thing that you need to do.
So teamwork makes the dream work, I assume.
It does. It does. It does.
Damon, this has been wonderful. We are at our hour mark, unfortunately. Where can people listen to your podcast and learn more about your business?
It's just on our website, exityourway.us, exityourway.com, exityourway.ca, whatever you want to go to, just Exit Your Way. It's under our resources, the Faces of Business. You can also see our roundtables and our manufacturing e-commerce success series that we do on Thursdays and Fridays, where we have different guests with that as well.
Perfect. And we'll all be waiting for your book release in a couple of years.
I definitely will.
All right.
The new EOS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
Damon.
it's sad. This is going to get my ages. I was doing EOS before they wrote the book. So.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I didn't know that's what it was, but.
Well, before I even read it, we do a form of it, and Lisa, I'll send it over to you. I'll order a few copies also for the office.
We have 10 books we have to order.
I know, but we've been doing a very similar version of EOS in the office itself without us even knowing it, and it's been amazing. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Damon, thank you so much for coming on the show, dear. This has been fantastic, so informative. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Anytime. And thank you for everybody who watched or listened. As always, give us a like, comment, share, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell for notifications so that you never miss a conversation with leaders in supply chain and e-commerce, just like Damon Pistulka with Exit Your Way. Damon, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.